It seems to me it's one of those subjects we've never been allowed to speak about. We're not really allowed, in my personal view, to speak about Maddie McCann. When I used to write for a different newspaper, I often asked to speak about Maddie or write about Maddie, and I was never allowed. I was told I wouldn't be taking the story forwards. And finally, after campaigning at the Mail, I was allowed to write about Maddie. And my belief that the thing, we've never really been allowed to say is that Maddie is never coming home. In my opinion, Maddie will never be found. For me, I believe, no amount of money and no amount of libel action will ever cancel out the damage that the McCanns have brought and inflicted upon themselves. I've always said, I don't believe we should have spent £11 million, for example, to look for Maddie, and I do not believe we've seen an equal treatment. A man was charged for leaving his daughter in a car for 2 minutes while he raced into a chemist to get Calpol for her. He was charged with that offence, and I do believe if the McCanns had come from a council estate, we would have seen them treated very differently to the way that they have been treated over this. I still see Kate McCann's face being used to front up campaigns to help find children when they're lost, which of course is something we'd all support, but I find it very difficult to offer support when it's Kate McCann's face that's standing up as the concerned mother looking for missing children. It seems to me that she's the very opposite person to use. I believe that was one of the least successful campaigns of all times. It strikes me the BBC, for example, were in on it as well. They had the Crime Watch programme for the McCanns where they released new photo fits that the McCanns had been sitting on for 5 years because they didn't want to release them at the time. It strikes me, speaking very openly here on national radio, live on the radio, the McCanns were the ones that put their children in harm's way. They were the ones that went out for dinner and left their children without a babysitter. For me, I've always said the blame must sit with Kate and Jerry McCann. I have no problem with saying that either. I think when we give birth to children, when I gave birth to my first daughter, I remember waking up that morning, looking over, seeing this tiny little thing in this little cot next to me and thinking, oh my gosh, A, that's mine. B, how did that happen? I'm not old enough or sensible enough to have a baby. And C, you are born that day. You are born yourself, reborn with something called the fear. It's a fear. And it's with you every day, every minute. Right now, as I sit here, the fear. Are my children safe? Are they well? Telling them, reminding them, be careful how you cross the road when we just go to the spa. Look left and right at the zebra crossing because the drivers won't stop. It's the fear. It's that time in the supermarket where they're out of your sight for 1 second. I can feel it now. There's a prickle that comes on your palm, the thought that something bad might happen to your children. That's a feeling every parent knows. My 3 children still have their little bunnies, their little cuddle bunnies, and those bunnies are on their beds now. I can see them. I know what they look like. They're just rags, really. But I know if one of my children were ever taken from me for health or whatever, I don't know if I'd go on, but I know I would sleep with that under my pillow every night until I went or my daughter was found. And I think this is the truth of millions of parents out there across Great Britain. This is the truth that is not spoken about Maddie McCann. And this is why we must all remain and stand strong for Maddie McCann. It strikes me that in this instance, Maddie wasn't lost because someone took her. I believe Maddie was lost because she was left to be found.